Temple prostitution. Imagine going to a temple to pray and connect with the Creator, only to be told that you must strip down and offer yourself, not just to the divine, but to everyone. This was the essence of temple prostitution, a practice where devotees, often women, would engage in sexual acts within a sacred space as part of religious rituals. By participating, they were seen as offering their bodies in devotion to a deity, typically one associated with fertility, love, or war. The idea was that by pleasing the gods, you were also pleasing everyone in the community. One day, you'd casually greet your neighbor, and the next, they might be visiting the temple to worship with you in a much more personal way. However, many people were uncomfortable with the idea of being essentially forced into these acts by religious leaders. In fact, temple prostitution wasn't even a necessity in many religions that practiced it. Often, it was more like divine peer pressure, where those around you pressured you into participating, even if you had no desire to be intimate with locals you saw regularly. As time went on, this practice became increasingly controversial, particularly with the emergence of monotheistic religions like Christianity and Islam. Female castration. Female genital mutilation, FGM, often referred to as female castration, involves the partial or total removal of external female genitalia or other injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. This practice is rooted in cultural, religious, or social beliefs and is predominantly found in parts of Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. It's often performed on young girls, and while it's typically intended to control a woman's sexuality or ensure premarital virginity, it has no health benefits and often leads to severe physical and psychological trauma. Over the years, global awareness of the harmful effects of FGM has increased significantly. It's recognized as a violation of human rights, particularly the rights of women and girls. FGM causes long-term complications, such as chronic pain, infections, complications during childbirth, and psychological distress. Due to the harmful nature of FGM, many countries have enacted laws banning the practice. International bodies like the United Nations, World Health Organization, and various human rights organizations have worked tirelessly to promote the eradication of FGM through education, advocacy, and legislation. Today, over 40 countries, including many where FGM was once widespread, have made it illegal, and there are significant penalties for those who continue to perform or support the practice. Additionally, communities around the world are increasingly working to change the cultural norms that have historically perpetuated this harmful practice. Child marriage. Child marriage is the formal or informal union of a child under the age of 18, often involving girls. This practice is deeply rooted in cultural, religious, and economic traditions, with families often marrying off young girls to reduce financial burdens, secure dowries, or preserve family honor. However, child marriage severely limits a child's opportunities for education, personal development, and can lead to a cycle of poverty. Girls married as children are at greater risk of domestic violence, health complications from early pregnancies, and mental health challenges. Childbirth at a young age often leads to higher maternal and infant mortality rates due to the physical immaturity of the young mothers. Many countries have implemented laws banning child marriage, setting a legal age of 18 for marriage. International organizations like UNICEF and the UN have been at the forefront of efforts to end this harmful practice, focusing on education, awareness, and community outreach. Despite legal restrictions, child marriage persists in many regions due to poverty, gender inequality, and cultural norms, but ongoing global efforts aim to protect children and promote their rights to education and personal autonomy. Human sacrifice. Human sacrifice was a practice in ancient civilizations where people were ritually killed as offerings to deities in the hopes of ensuring favorable outcomes, such as a good harvest, victory in battle, or protection from natural disasters. Civilizations like the Aztecs, Mayans, and ancient Egyptians are known for performing such rituals, often believing that the shedding of blood was necessary to maintain cosmic order or please the gods. Victims were usually prisoners of war, slaves, or individuals specifically chosen for these ceremonies, and the act was often seen as a way to secure divine favor. Today, human sacrifice is universally outlawed, seen as a gross violation of human rights and a relic of violent ancient practices. Despite this, rare cases of human sacrifice still occur in isolated communities, often driven by superstition or extreme religious beliefs. Such incidents are met with harsh legal consequences, as international laws and human rights organizations work to protect individuals from such exploitation and violence. Public awareness and education have also helped to diminish the practice and its associated cultural beliefs. Sati, widow burning. Sati was an ancient Hindu practice in which a widow would immolate herself on her husband's funeral pyre, often under societal pressure. It was believed to demonstrate the widow's ultimate devotion and loyalty to her husband, ensuring their spiritual union in the afterlife. While some saw it as a noble act, many women were coerced into participating, making it a symbol of extreme patriarchy. The practice was most common in certain regions and castes, particularly in parts of Rajasthan and Bengal, though it was never universally observed across India. Sati faced strong opposition, especially from Hindu reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who advocated for its abolition, viewing it as a cruel and inhumane tradition. In 1829, the British colonial government officially banned sati under Governor-General Lord William Bentinck. Although outlawed, isolated incidents continued into the modern era, prompting the enactment of the Commission of Sati Prevention Act of 1987, which made the practice and any form of its glorification illegal. Today, sati is largely remembered as a dark chapter in the history of women's rights in India. Foot binding. Foot binding was a traditional Chinese practice that involved tightly wrapping the feet of young girls, often starting as early as age 5, to prevent them from growing. The goal was to create small, delicate feet, known as lotus feet, which were considered a symbol of beauty, status, and femininity. The process was extremely painful as it involved breaking the toes and arch of the foot and binding them tightly to force the foot into a smaller shape, typically around 3 inches long. The bound feet were seen as a mark of elegance and were believed to enhance a woman's chances of marrying into a wealthy or influential family. However, foot binding caused severe long-term health consequences, including permanent disability, chronic pain, and difficulty walking. Over time, the practice faced increasing criticism, especially in the 19th and early 20th centuries, as reform movements and Western influence began to highlight its detrimental effects on women's health and autonomy. By the early 20th century, foot binding was officially banned in China, though it continued in some rural areas for a few more decades. Today, it is remembered as a symbol of the historical oppression of women, reflecting the extreme lengths to which patriarchal societies went to control and define female beauty and behavior. Polygamy. Polygamy, the practice of having multiple spouses simultaneously, has been banned in many countries due to various legal, social, and ethical concerns. One major reason for its prohibition is the desire to promote gender equality, as polygamous arrangements often lead to unequal power dynamics, typically favoring men. Legal frameworks that prioritize monogamy simplify marriage definitions, inheritance rights, and familial responsibilities, making it easier for governments to regulate relationships and protect individual rights. Additionally, concerns about social stability and the welfare of children in polygamous households further support the argument for banning the practice, as these arrangements can lead to issues like jealousy and resource competition. Conversely, proponents of polygamy argue for cultural and religious freedom, emphasizing that individuals should have the right to choose their family structures according to their beliefs. They contend that consensual relationships, including polygamous marriages, can provide economic benefits through shared resources and responsibilities. In some cultures, polygamy is viewed as a traditional practice that supports family cohesion and social structures. While most Western nations enforce bans on polygamy, the practice remains legally recognized in certain regions, particularly in parts of Africa and the Middle East, highlighting ongoing debates about personal autonomy and cultural rights in a global context. Cannibalism. Cannibalism, the act of consuming the flesh of one's own species, has existed in various forms throughout history and across cultures. It is generally categorized into two types: endo-cannibalism, where individuals eat members of their own social group, often as part of rituals honoring the dead, and exo-cannibalism, where outsiders or enemies are consumed. In some societies, cannibalism was rooted in spiritual beliefs, with tribes viewing the act as a means of keeping the spirit of deceased relatives alive. Historically, it has also been a desperate survival strategy during famines or extreme situations, exemplified by cases like the Donner Party in the 1840s, where individuals resorted to cannibalism to survive harsh conditions. In contemporary society, cannibalism is universally condemned and considered a criminal act, provoking intense moral and ethical debates. It often evokes horror and fascination in media and literature, leading to misconceptions and stigmatization of those who engage in it for psychological reasons, such as high-profile cases like that of Armin Mewis in Germany. While cannibalism is largely viewed negatively today, exploring its historical and cultural context reveals complexities in human behavior and societal norms, shedding light on the motivations behind such extreme practices throughout history. Exorcism by beating. Exorcism by beating, a violent practice in which individuals believed to be possessed by evil spirits are physically assaulted to expel these entities, has led to legal bans in several countries due to its dangerous consequences. In some cases, religious leaders or family members believe that extreme physical actions, such as beating or restraining, will drive out a spirit or demon. Unfortunately, these practices often result in severe injuries, psychological trauma, or even death. This method has been particularly controversial in regions where traditional or extreme religious interpretations condone such physical measures during exorcisms, creating conflict between cultural or religious customs and modern legal standards. Governments and legal systems in countries like the United Kingdom, Romania, and others have moved to ban violent exorcism practices following high-profile cases where victims, often vulnerable individuals, including children or mentally ill adults, died as a result. In Romania, the death of a nun during a violent exorcism in 2005 highlighted the dangers of such practices, leading to public outcry and the criminal prosecution of the priest involved. Similarly, incidents in Germany, the UK, and other countries have prompted stronger legal protections against exorcisms involving physical abuse. These bans aim to prevent further harm, while addressing the balance between religious freedom and the responsibility to safeguard individuals' safety and well-being. Carolingian trial by ordeal. The Carolingian trial by ordeal was a judicial practice in the early medieval Carolingian Empire, where individuals accused of crimes underwent physical tests believed to reveal divine judgment. Rooted in Germanic tradition, it was assumed that God would protect the innocent during the ordeal, while the guilty would suffer. Common types of ordeals included walking over hot coals, ordeal by fire, submersion in water to test if the accused would float or sink, ordeal by water, or combat between two parties to determine divine favor. These trials were seen as direct appeals to God's will, placing the outcome of justice in supernatural hands. However, by the later Carolingian period, trial by ordeal began to face growing criticism, especially from the Church, which questioned its moral and theological foundations. As the Carolingian rulers embraced more Roman legal principles and the Church's influence increased, the use of ordeals diminished. The idea of relying on physical suffering to determine guilt or innocence conflicted with the emerging Christian understanding of justice, which sought to move away from such brutal methods. Eventually, this led to the decline of trial by ordeal, as more formalized legal systems developed in Europe. Now that you've explored the fascinating topic of banned religious practices, stay tuned for our next video, explaining every common biblical misunderstanding. We'll dive deep into some of the most widespread misconceptions about the Bible, clarifying misinterpreted passages and offering fresh insights. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss this enlightening discussion.